Okay, good. I'm live. Hi, everybody. I'm back. My wires are a little bit tangled. Okay, let's have a little sip of water. That was more of a gulp. But anyhow, tonight I will be getting started on War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. As I mentioned previously, this is a book I've always wanted to read, was always on my to-read list, and I figured, let's do it. We've been doing some reading on this channel, and I like the trend of reading and responding just in the moment, and also having the feedback loop of the chat. I find it pretty fun to do that. So we'll be digging into this tonight. I don't think we'll get through all of the book. I think we'll probably have probably two live streams to get through this book. So hoping to, get it read today and then sometime this weekend. Anyway, but yeah, drop a hello in the chat and feel free to give your feedback through the reading. I'd love to, know how the reading is, impacting you. Hi, Nicholas Woodall. He's here. Welcome to the chat. He asks how I'm doing. I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah. I am all right. How are you doing? Shall I do a couple notes on my drum? Why don't I do a couple notes on my drum here? Ugh. Crossed wires. At least while you come in. Hi, modern gentlemen. Hi, Samuel. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the live stream. I hope, is everyone looking forward to this book? Are you excited? You're curious? All right. Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, I kind of have an idea what's going to be in here, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. You're excited to move on from the last one? You didn't like the green book? You didn't find the green book interesting? I thought the green book was, I mean, sure, it was a bit tough, but it was interesting. It was definitely something to read. Definitely. What else do I have here? What's this? Oh yeah, this is Beauty and Misogyny. I have a ton of books here by my desk. It's a bit of a mess. Honestly, it's a bit of a mess. But yeah, I'm excited to dig into this one. So yeah, T-Bone. Did you see I have a new nickname? Not only is it T-Bone, I have been dubbed T-Bird. T-Bird, which is what, Thunderbird? I don't know. But I like it. It was quite interesting. Yeah, it was. Definitely gave me a lot to think about. Interesting response and chat. So yeah, this is War is a Racket. Let's dig into it, yeah? Without further ado. No introduction. Chapter 1. War is a racket. War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it is about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the very many. Out of a war, a few people make huge fortunes. Okay, can I just stop there? Is this secret knowledge to anyone? Is anyone in the chat unaware of this fact? And I wonder, in previous incarnations of history, were people unaware of this fact? Because every war has had people like opposed to it, at least in American history. Every war has had people like clamoring against it for peace, you know? And I don't think all wars are avoidable. Honestly, I'm not one of these like pacifists that thinks all wars. I mean, I do think all war is evil, but I mean, I don't think they're avoidable. War is a racket. That's right. Thank you, Caleb. Caleb is here. Shout out to Stacy and Samuel in the chat as well. Yeah. Oh, you shared. Thank you. Yeah. I'm enjoying these reading streams, but yeah, that first opening paragraph there. I don't know. I know that war is, about making money for a small handful of people. And I don't know many people who are unaware of that. If they are out there, if they happen to be watching, let me know. But I do think that ultimately war is about resources. For one, it's about who gets what resources. And it's a profitable enterprise for a select group of people. So anyway, in the World War, a mere handful garnered the profits of the conflict. At least 21,000 new millionaires and billionaires were made in the United States during the World War. I'm assuming that this is World War I. I don't know when this book was first written. It says it was first published in 1935. Okay, interesting. Okay. That many admitted their huge blood gains in their income tax returns. How many other war millionaires falsified their tax returns, no one knows. How many of these war millionaires shouldered a rifle? How many of them dug a trench? How many of them knew what it meant to go hungry in a rat-infested dugout? How many of them spent sleepless, frightened nights, ducking shells and shrapnel and machine gun bullets? How many of them parried a bayonet thrust of an enemy? How many of them were wounded or killed in battle? Out of war, nations acquire additional territory if they are victorious. They just take it. This newly acquired territory promptly is exploited by the few, the self-same few who wrung dollars out of blood in the war. The general public shoulders the bill. And what is this bill? This bill renders a horrible accounting. I'm going to have to move my drum. I'm noticing that my voice is actually bouncing off of it. I have my microphone right by there, so I'm going to move things a little bit. Excuse me. Okay. Newly placed gravestones, mangled bodies, shattered minds, broken hearts and homes, economic instability, depression and all its attendant miseries, back-breaking taxation for generations and generations. For a great many years as a soldier, I had a suspicion that war was a racket. Not until I retired to civil life did I fully realize it. Now that I see the international war clouds gathering as they are today, I must face it and speak out. Okay, y'all, and I just realized something. I want to put up my ticker. So give me a second. I just like to have a banner going with these streams when I'm reading. So, because I don't know, people come in and they're like, what are you reading? And I'm like, for God's sakes, it's in the title. So if I put it at the bottom, I can have two things to tell them, for goodness sakes, about, you know. Okay. There we go. Lovely. Isn't that nice? The ticker is overly stimulating. I'm sorry, Stacy. I'd like to have it going. All the red, all my beautiful reds. Okay. Now that I see the international war clouds gathering as they are today, I must face it and speak out. Again, they are choosing sides. France and Russia met and agreed to stand side by side. Italy and Austria hurried to make a similar agreement. Poland and Germany cast sheep's eyes at each other, forgetting for the nonce their dispute over the Polish corridor. The assassination of King Alexander of Yugoslavia complicated matters. Yugoslavia and Hungary, long bitter enemies, were almost at each other's throats. Italy was ready to jump in, but France was waiting. So was Czechoslovakia. All of them are looking ahead to war. Not the people, not those who fight and pay and die, only those who foment wars and remain safely at home to profit. There are 40 million men under arms in the world today, and our statesmen and diplomats have the temerity to say that war is not in the making. Hell's bells! Are these 40 million men being trained to be dancers? Not in Italy, to be sure. Premier Mussolini knows what they are being trained for. He, at least, is frank enough to speak out. Only the other day, Il Duce in International Conciliation, the publication of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, said, and above all, fascism, the more it considers and observes the future and the development of humanity, quite apart from political considerations of the moment, believes neither in the possibility nor the utility of perpetual peace. War alone brings up to its highest tension all human energy and puts the stamp of nobility upon the people who have the courage to meet it. Yikes. Undoubtedly, Mussolini means exactly what he says. His well-trained army, his great fleet of planes, and even his navy are ready for war, anxious for it apparently. His recent stand at the side of Hungary in the latter's dispute with Yugoslavia showed that, and the hurried mobilization of his troops on the Austrian border after the assassination of Dulfish showed it too. There are others in Europe too whose saber-rattling presages war sooner or later. Herr Hitler, with his rearming Germany and his constant demands for more and more arms, is an equal, if not greater, menace to peace. France only recently increased the term of military service for its youth from a year to 18 months. Yes, all over, nations are camping in their arms. The mad dogs of Europe are on the loose. In the Orient, the maneuvering is more adroit. Back in 1904, when Russia and Japan fought, we kicked out our old friends, the Russians, and backed Japan. And our very generous international bankers were financing Japan. Now the trend is to poison us against the Japanese. What does the open door policy to China mean to us? Our trade with China is about $90 million a year, or the Philippine Islands. We have spent about $600 million in the Philippines in 35 years, and our bankers and industrialists and speculators have private investments there of less than $200 million. Then, to save that China trade of about $90 million, or to protect these private investments of less than $200 million in the Philippines, we would be all stirred up to hate Japan and go to war, a war that might well cost us tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of lives of Americans, and many more hundreds of thousands of physically maimed and mentally unbalanced men. Of course, for this loss, there would be a compensating profit. Fortunes would be made. Millions and billions of dollars would be piled up by a few. Munitions makers, bankers, shipbuilders, manufacturers, meat packers, speculators, they would fare well. Yes, they are getting ready for another war. Why shouldn't they? It pays high dividends. But what does it profit the men who are killed? What does it profit their mothers and sisters, their wives and their sweethearts? What does it profit their children? What does it profit anyone? Except the very few to whom war means huge profits. Yes, and what does it profit the nation? Take our own case. Until 1898, we didn't own a bit of territory outside the mainland of North America. At that time, our national debt was little more than $1 billion. Then we became internationally minded. We forgot or shunted aside the advice of the father of our country. We forgot George Washington's warning about entangling alliances. We went to war. We acquired outside territory. At the end of the World War period, as a direct result of our fiddling in international affairs, our national debt had jumped to over $25 billion. Our total favorable trade balance during the 25-year period was about $24 billion. Therefore, on a purely bookkeeping basis, we ran a little behind year for year, and that foreign trade might have well been ours without the wars. It would have been far cheaper, not to say safer, for the average American who pays the bills to stay out of foreign entanglements. For very few, this racket, like bootlegging and other underworld rackets, brings fancy profits, but the cost of operations is always transferred to the people who do not profit. Chapter 2, Who makes the profits? The World War, rather our brief participation in it, has cost the United States some $52 billion. Figure it out. That means $400 to every American man, woman, and child, and we haven't paid the debt yet. We are paying it. Our children will pay it, and our children's children probably still will be paying the cost of that war. The normal profits of a business concern in the United States are 6, 8, 10, and sometimes 12%. But wartime profits, that is another matter. 20, 60, 100, 300, and even 1,800%. The sky is the limit. All that traffic will bear. Uncle Sam has the money. Let's get it. Of course, it isn't put that crudely in wartime. It is dressed into speeches about patriotism, love of country, and we must all put our shoulders to the wheel. But the profits jump and leap and skyrocket and are safely pocketed. Let's just take a few examples. Take our friends, the DuPonts, the powder people. Didn't one of them testify before a Senate committee recently that their powder won the war or saved the world for democracy? Or something. How did they do in the war? They were a patriotic corporation. While the average earnings of the DuPonts for the period 1910 to 1914 were $6 million a year, it wasn't much, but the DuPonts managed to get along on it. Now let's look at their average yearly profit during the war years, 1914 to 1918. Excuse me. Irish Repub says Smedley is in his family tree. Well, how nice. I don't think he's in mine, but who can say? Probably would have come up. 1914 to 1918. Oh, excuse me. Hi, new guy. $58 million a year profit we find. So they jumped from $6 million to $58 million a year. And these were in the years 1914 to 1918. So figure out what that is nowadays, but it's quite a leap in profit, I would say. Little bit. Little bit. Nearly 10 times that of normal times, and the profits of normal times were pretty good. An increase in profits of more than 950%. Take one of our little steel companies that patriotically shunted aside the making of rails and girders and bridges to manufacture war materials. Well, their 1910 to 1914 yearly earnings averaged $6 million. Then came the war, and like loyal citizens, Bethlehem Steel promptly turned to munitions making. Did their profits jump, or did they let Uncle Sam in for a bargain? Well, their 1914 to 1918 average was $49 million a year. Or let's take United States Steel. The normal earnings during the 5-year period prior to the war were $105 million a year. Not bad. Then along came the war, and up went the profits. The average yearly profit for the period 1914 to 1918 was $240 million. Not bad. There you have some of the steel and powder earnings. Let's look at something else. A little copper, perhaps. That always does well in war times. Anaconda, for instance. Average yearly earnings during the pre-war years, 1910 to 1914, of $10 million. During the war years, 1914 to 1918, profits leapt to $34 million per year. Or Utah copper, average of $5 million per year during the 1910 to 1914 period, jumped to an average of $21 million yearly profits for the war period. Let's group these 5 with 3 smaller companies. The total yearly average profits of the pre-war period, 1910 to 1914, were $137,480,000. Then along came the war. The average yearly profits for this group skyrocketed to $408,300,000. A little increase in profits of approximately 200%. Does war pay? It paid them. But they aren't the only ones. There are still others. Let's take leather. Excuse me, I'm going to rearrange myself. What do you all think so far? Are you shocked? Are you shocked and appalled? I know. I'm reading these numbers. I'm like, oh, only that many million? For the 3-year period before the war, the total profits of Central Leather Company were $3,500,000. That was approximately $1,167,000 a year. Well, in 1916, Central Leather returned a profit of $15 million, a small increase of 1,100%. That's all. The General Chemical Company averaged a profit for the 3 years before the war of a little over 800,000 a year. Came the war and the profits jumped to 12 million, a leap of 1,400%. International Nickel Company, and you can't have a war without nickel, showed an increase in profits from a mere average of 4 million a year to 73 million a yearly. Not bad. An increase of more than 1,700%. American Sugar Refining Company averaged 2 million a year for the 3 years before the war. In 1916, a profit of 6 million was recorded. Listen to Senate document number 259, the 65th Congress, reporting on corporate earnings and government revenues. Considering the profits of 122 meat packers, 153 cotton manufacturers, 299 garment makers, 49 steel plants, and 340 coal producers during the war, profits under 25% were exceptional. For instance, the coal companies made between 100% and 7,856% on their capital stock during the war. The Chicago Packers doubled and tripled their earnings. And let us not forget the bankers who financed the Great War. If anyone had the cream of the profits, it was the bankers. Being partnerships rather than incorporated organizations, they did not have to report to stockholders, and their profits were as secret as they were immense. How the bankers made their millions and their billions, I do not know, because those little secrets never become public, even before a Senate investigatory body. But here's how some of the other patriotic industrialists and speculators chiseled their way into war profits. Take the shoe people. They like war. It brings business with abnormal profits. They made huge profits on sales abroad to our allies, perhaps like the munitions manufacturers and armament makers. They also sold to the enemy. For a dollar is a dollar, whether it comes from Germany or from France. But they did well by Uncle Sam, too. For instance, they sold Uncle Sam 35 million pairs of hobnailed service shoes. There were 4 million soldiers, 8 pairs and more to a soldier. My regiment during the war had only 1 pair to a soldier. Some of these shoes probably are still in existence. They were good shoes. But when the war was over, Uncle Sam has a matter of 25 million pairs left over, bought and paid for, profits recorded and pocketed. There was still lots of leather left, so the leather people sold your Uncle Sam hundreds of thousands of McClellan saddles for the cavalry. But there wasn't any American cavalry overseas. Somebody had to get rid of this leather, however. Somebody had to make a profit in it. So we had a lot of McClellan saddles, and we probably have those yet. Also, somebody had to do a lot of mosquito netting. They sold your Uncle Sam 20 million mosquito nets for the use of soldiers overseas. I suppose the boys were expected to put it over them as they tried to sleep in muddy trenches, one hand scratching cooties on their backs, and the other making passes at scurrying rats. Well, not one of these mosquito nets ever got to France. Nice. Anyhow, these thoughtful manufacturers wanted to make sure that no soldier would be without his mosquito net. So 40 million additional yards of mosquito netting were sold to Uncle Sam. There were pretty good profits in mosquito netting in those days, even if there were no mosquitoes in France. I suppose if the war had lasted just a little longer, the enterprising mosquito netting manufacturers would have sold your Uncle Sam a couple of consignments of mosquitoes to plant in France, so that more mosquito netting would be in order. What were they doing? Why'd they buy all this mosquito netting? Airplane and engine manufacturers felt they too should get a, excuse me, let me just redo that. Airplane and engine manufacturers felt they too should get their just profits out of this war. Why not? Everybody else was getting theirs. So 1 billion, count them if you lived long enough, was spent by Uncle Sam in building airplane engines that never left the ground. Not one plane or motor out of the $1 billion worth ordered ever got into battle in France. Just the same, the manufacturers made their little profit of 30, 100, or perhaps 300%. Undershirts for soldiers cost 14 cents to make, and Uncle Sam paid 30 cents to 40 cents for each of them, a nice little profit for the undershirt manufacturer. And the stocking manufacturer and the uniform manufacturers and the cap manufacturers and the steel helmet manufacturers all got theirs. Why, when the war was over, some 4 million sets of equipment, knapsacks, and the things that go to fill them crammed warehouses on the side. Now they are being scrapped because the regulations have changed the contents. But the manufacturers collected their wartime profits on them, and they will do it all over again the next time. There were lots of brilliant ideas for profit making during the war. One very versatile patriot sold Uncle Sam 12 dozen 14-inch wrenches. Oh, they were very nice wrenches. The only trouble was that there was only one nut ever made that was large enough for these wrenches. That is the one that holds the turbines at Niagara Falls. Well, after Uncle Sam had bought them and the manufacturer had pocketed the profit, the wrenches were put on freight cars and shunted all around the United States in an effort to find a use for them. When the armistice was signed, it was indeed a sad blow to the wrench manufacturer. He was just about to make some nuts to fit the wrenches. Then he planned to sell these too to your Uncle Sam. Still another had the brilliant idea that colonels shouldn't ride in automobiles, nor should they even ride on horseback. One has probably seen a picture of Andy Jackson riding in a buckboard. Well, some 6,000 buckboards were sold to Uncle Sam for the use of colonels. Not one of them was used, but the buckboard manufacturer got his war profit. The shipbuilders felt they should come in on some of that too. They built a lot of ships that made a lot of profit, more than $3 billion worth. Some of the ships were all right, but $635 million worth of them were made of wood and wouldn't float. The seams opened up and they sank. We paid for them though, and somebody pocketed the profits. It has been estimated by statisticians and economists and researchers that the war cost your Uncle Sam, oh my God, $52 billion. Of this sum, $39 billion was expended in the actual war itself. This expenditure yielded $16 billion in profits. That is how the 21,000 billionaires and millionaires got that way. This $600 billion in profits is not to be sneezed at. It is quite a tiny sum, and it went to a very few. The Senate Nye Committee probe of the munitions industry and its wartime profits, despite its sensational disclosures, hardly has scratched the surface. Even so, it has had some effect. The State Department has been studying for some time methods of keeping out of war. The War Department suddenly decides it has a wonderful plan to spring. The administration names a committee with the War and Navy departments ably represented under the chairmanship of a Wall Street speculator to limit profits in wartime. To what extent isn't suggested? Possibly the profits of 300 and 600 and 1600%, of those who turned blood into gold in the World War would be limited to some smaller figure. Apparently, however, the plan does not call for any limitation of losses. That is, the losses of those who fight the war. As far as I have been able to ascertain, there is nothing in the scheme to limit a soldier to the loss of but one eye or one arm, or to limit his wounds to 1 or 2 or 3, or to limit the loss of life. There is nothing in the scheme, apparently, that says not more than 12% of a regiment shall be wounded in battle, or that not more than 7% in a division shall be killed. Of course, the committee cannot be bothered with such trifling matters. Oh dear, Matthew, really? $1,400 for a small pack of lithium batteries. Scandalous. Scandalous. And we're paying for it. The American taxpayer pays for it, and our children and our children's children. And maybe theirs. Chapter 3, Who pays the bills? Who provides the profits? These nice little profits of 20, 100, 300, 1,500, and 1,800%? We all pay them in taxation. We paid the bankers their profits when we bought Liberty bonds at $100 and sold them back at $84 or $86 to the bankers. These bankers collected $100 plus. It was a simple manipulation. The bankers control the security marts. It was easy for them to depress the price of these bonds. Then all of us, the people, got frightened and sold the bonds at $84 or $86. The bankers bought them. Then these same bankers stimulated a boom and government bonds went to par and above. Then the bankers collected their profits. But the soldier pays the biggest part of the bill. If you don't believe this, visit the American cemeteries on the battlefields abroad, or visit any of the veterans' hospitals in the United States. On a tour of the country, in the midst of which I am at the time of this writing, I visited 18 government hospitals for veterans. In them are a total of about 50,000 destroyed men who were the pick of the nation 18 years ago. The very able chief surgeon at the government hospital at Milwaukee, where there are 3,800 of the living dead, told me that the mortality rate among veterans is 3 times as great as among those who stayed at home. Boys with a normal viewpoint were taken out of the fields and offices and factories and classrooms and put into the ranks. They were remolded. They were made over. They were made to about face, to regard murder as order of the day. They were put shoulder to shoulder, and through mass psychology, they were entirely changed. We used them for a couple of years and trained them to think nothing at all of killing or being killed. Then suddenly, we discharged them and told them to make another about face. This time they had to do their own readjustment, sans mass psychology, sans officers' aid and advice, and sans nationwide propaganda. We didn't need them anymore. So we scattered them about without any 3-minute or Liberty Loan speeches or parades. Too many of these fine young boys are eventually destroyed mentally because they could not make that final about face alone. In the government hospital in Marion, Indiana, 1,800 of these boys are in pens. 500 of them in barracks with steel bars and wires all around outside the buildings and on the porches. God, World War I was horrible. These already have been mentally destroyed. These boys don't even look like human beings. Oh, the looks on their faces. Physically, they are in good shape. Mentally, they are gone. There are thousands and thousands of these cases, and more are coming in all the time. The tremendous excitement of the war, the sudden cutting off of that excitement. The young boys couldn't stand it. That's a part of the bill. So much for the dead. They have paid their part in the war profits. So much for the mentally and physically wounded. They are paying now their share of the war profits. But the others paid too. They paid with heartbreaks when they tore themselves away from their firesides and their families to don the uniform of Uncle Sam, on which a profit had been made. They paid another part in the training camps, where they were regimented and drilled while others took their jobs and their places in the lives of their communities. They paid for it in the trenches, where they shot and were shot, where they were hungry for days at a time, where they slept in the mud and the cold and in the rain, with the moans and shrieks of the dying for a horrible lullaby. But don't forget, the soldier paid part of the dollars and cents bill too. Up to and including the Spanish-American War, we had a prize system, and soldiers and sailors fought for money. During the Civil War, they were paid bonuses in many instances before they went into service. The government or states paid as high as $1,200 for an enlistment. In the Spanish-American War, they gave prize money. When we captured any vessels, the soldiers all got their share, at least they were supposed to. Then it was found that we could reduce the cost of wars by taking all the prize money and keeping it, but conscripting the soldier anyway. Then soldiers couldn't bargain for their labor. Everyone else could bargain, but the soldier couldn't. Napoleon once said, "All men are enamored of decorations. They positively hunger for them." So by developing the Napoleonic system, the medal business, the government learned it could get soldiers for less money because the boys liked to be decorated. Until the Civil War, there were no medals. Then the Congressional Medal of Honor was handed out. It made enlistments easier. After the Civil War, no new medals were issued until the Spanish-American War. Point Fire and Chris have also joined the chat. Welcome. We're having an interesting read today of this book. Oof, it's intense. Oof. Get that light on me. Get some more pretty light. Okay. In the World War, we used propaganda to make the boys accept conscription. They were made to feel ashamed if they didn't join the army. I mean, yeah, the shaming was really intense in World War I. And you just think about it, like how many were conscripted. And it was just average people, like men who were never had any business being soldiers at all, you know. And that's the way it is in a lot of these wars, you know. But, you know, you think of like bank clerks and secretaries and just, you know, men who really had, you know, administrators, men who really had no business being in the trenches, being sent off there, turned into soldiers. And so many of them just, you know, I mean, we're talking about the maimed here, but so many of them just died, you know, they were killed. Anyway, so vicious was the war propaganda that even God was brought into it. With few exceptions, our clergymen joined in the clamor to kill, 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 to kill the Germans. God is on our side. It is his will that the Germans be killed. And in Germany, the good pastors called upon the Germans to kill the Allies to please the same God. That was part of the general propaganda built up to make people war conscious and murder conscious. Beautiful ideals were painted for our boys who were sent out to die. This was the war to end all wars. This was the war to make the world safe for democracy. No one mentioned to them as they marched away that their going and their dying would mean huge war profits. No one told these American soldiers that they might be shot down by bullets made by their own brothers here. No one told them that the ships on which they were going to cross might be torpedoed by submarines built with United States patents. They were just told it was to be a glorious adventure. Thus, having stuffed patriotism down their throats, it was decided to make them help pay for the war too. So we gave them the large salary of $30 a month. All they had to do for this munificent, I'm not familiar with this term, munificent. Some was to leave their dear ones behind, give up their jobs, lie in swampy trenches, eat canned willy when they could get it, and kill and kill and kill and be killed. But wait, half of that wage, just a little more than a riveter in a shipyard or a laborer in a munitions factory safe at home made in a day, was promptly taken from him to support his dependents so that they would not become a charge upon his community. Then we made him pay what amounted to an accident insurance, something the employer pays for in an enlightened state, and that cost him $6 a month. He had less than $9 a month left. Then the most crowning insolence of all, he was virtually blackjacked into paying for his own ammunition, clothing, and food by being made to buy Liberty bonds. Most soldiers got no money at all on paydays. We made them buy Liberty bonds at $100, and then we bought them back when they came back from the war and couldn't find work at $84 and $86. And these soldiers bought about $2 billion worth of these bonds. Yes, the soldier pays the greater part of the bill. His family pays too. They pay it in the same heartbreak that he does, and he suffers. As he suffers, they suffer. At night, says he lay in the trenches and watched shrapnel burst about him. They lay home in their beds and tossed sleeplessly. His father, his mother, his wife, his sisters, his brothers, his sons, and his daughters. When he returned home, minus an eye or minus a leg, or with his mind broken, they suffered too, as much and even sometimes more than he. Yes, and they too contributed their dollars to the profits of the munitions makers and bankers and shipbuilders and the manufacturers and the speculators made. They too bought Liberty bonds and contributed to the profit of the bankers after the armistice and the hocus pocus of manipulated Liberty bond prices. And even now, the families of the wounded men and of the mentally broken and those who never were able to readjust themselves are still suffering and still paying. Munificent means generous. Thank you, Glenn B. Oh, yeah. They pay for you to shave your head. Well, yeah, they're still doing it. That's nice, Matthew. Wow, $1,750. That's interesting. I didn't know that about the Canadian conscripts, but they recruited soldiers from prisons. I've heard they've been doing that with Russia for the war in Ukraine currently, but they've been recruiting prisoners at this time. God, you're going away present. Good old Uncle Sam, doing our boys proud. Chapter 4, How to Smash This Racket. Well, it's a racket, all right. A few profit and many pay, but there is a way to stop it. You can't end it by disarmament conferences. You can't eliminate it by peace parleys at Geneva. Well-meaning but impractical groups can't wipe it out by resolutions. It can be smashed effectively only by taking the profit out of war. The only way to smash this racket is to conscript capital and industry and labor before the nation's manhood can be conscripted. 1 month before the government can conscript the young men of the nation, it must conscript capital and industry and labor. Let the officers and the directors and the high-powered executives of our armament factories and our munitions makers and our shipbuilders and our airplane builders and the manufacturers of all other things that provide profit in wartime, as well as the bankers and the speculators, be conscripted to get $30 a month, the same wage as the lads in the trenches get. Let the workers in these plants get the same wages. All the workers, all presidents, all executives, all directors, all managers, all bankers, yes, and all generals, and all admirals, and all officers, and all politicians, and all government office holders, everyone in the nation be restricted to a monthly total income not to exceed that paid to the soldier in the trenches. Let all these kings and tycoons and masters of business and all those workers in industry and all our senators and governors and majors pay half of their monthly $30 wage to their families and pay war risk insurance and buy Liberty bonds. Why shouldn't they? They aren't running any risk of being killed or of having their bodies mangled or their minds shattered. They aren't sleeping in muddy trenches. They aren't hungry. The soldiers are. Give capital and industry and labor 30 days to think it over, and you will find by that time there will be no war. That will smash the war racket. That and nothing else. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic. Capital still has some say, so capital won't permit the taking of the profit out of war until the people, those who do the suffering and still pay the price, make up their minds that those they elect to office shall do their bidding, and not that of the profiteers. Another step necessary in this fight to smash the war racket is the limited plebiscite to determine whether a war should be declared. A plebiscite not of all the voters, but merely of those who would be called upon to do the fighting and dying. There wouldn't be very much sense in having a 76-year-old president of a munitions factory, or the flat-footed head of an international banking firm, or the cross-eyed manager of a uniform manufacturing plant, all of whom see visions of tremendous profits in the event of war, voting on whether the nation should go to war or not. They never would be called upon to shoulder arms, to sleep in a trench, and to be shot. Only those who would be called upon to risk their lives for their country should have the privilege of voting to determine whether the nation should go to war. There is ample precedent for restricting the voting to those affected. Many of our states have restrictions on those permitted to vote. In most, it is necessary to be able to read and write before you may vote. In some, you must own property. It would be a simple matter each year for the men coming of military age to register in their communities as they did in the draft during the World War and be examined physically. Those who could pass and who would therefore be called upon to bear arms in the event of war would be eligible to vote in a limited plebiscite. They should be the ones who have the power to decide, and not a Congress. Few of those members are within the age limit, and fewer still of whom are in physical condition to bear arms. Only those who must suffer should have the right to vote. A third step in this business of smashing the war racket is to make certain that our military forces are truly forces for defense only. At each session of Congress, the question of further naval appropriations comes up. The swivel chair admirals of Washington, and there are always a lot of them, are very adroit lobbyists, and they are smart. They don't shout that we need a lot of battleships to war on this nation or that nation. Oh no. First of all, they let it be known that America is menaced by a great naval power. Almost any day, these admirals will tell you, the great fleet of this supposed enemy will strike suddenly, and annihilate 125 million people, just like that. Then they begin to cry for a larger navy. For what? To fight the enemy? Oh my, no, oh no, for defense purposes only. And incidentally, they announce maneuvers in the Pacific for defense. The Pacific is a great big ocean. We have tremendous coastline on the Pacific. Will the maneuvers be off the coast, 200 or 300 miles? Oh no. The maneuvers will be 2,000, yes, perhaps even 3,500 miles off the coast. The Japanese, a proud people, of course, will be pleased beyond expression to see the United States fleet so close to Nippon's shores. Even as pleased as would be the residents of California, were they to dimly discern through the morning mist the Japanese fleet playing at war games off of Los Angeles. The ships of our Navy, it can be seen, should be specifically limited by law to within 200 miles of our coastline. Had that been the law in 1898, the Maine would never have gone to Havana Harbor. She never would have been blown up. There would have been no war with Spain, with its attendant loss of life. 200 miles is ample, in the opinion of experts, for defense purposes. Our nation cannot start an offensive war if its ships can't go further than 200 miles from the coastline. Planes might be permitted to go as far as 500 miles from the coast for purposes of reconnaissance, and the Army should never leave the territorial limits of our nation. To summarize, 3 steps must be taken to smash the war racket. We must take the profit out of war. We must permit the youth of the land who would bear arms to decide whether or not there should be war. We must limit our military forces to home defense purposes. Smash or pass the racket. Oh, Chris. Ran over by a tank. Good God. Oh, God. Chapter 5. To hell with war. I am not a fool as to believe that war is a thing of the past. I know the people do not want war, but there is no use in saying we cannot be pushed into another war. Looking back, Woodrow Wilson was re-elected president in 1916 on a platform that he had kept us out of war, and on that implied promise that he would keep us out of war. Yet 5 months later, he asked Congress to declare war on Germany. In that 5-month interval, the people had not been asked whether they had changed their minds. The 4 million young men who put on uniforms and marched or sailed away were not asked whether they wanted to go forth to suffer and die. Then what caused our government to change its mind so suddenly? Money. An Allied commission, it may be recalled, came over shortly before the war declaration and called on the president. The president summoned a group of advisors. The head of the commission spoke. Stripped of its diplomatic language, this is what he told the president and his group. There is no use kidding ourselves any longer. The cause of the Allies is lost. We now owe you, American bankers, American munitions makers, American manufacturers, American speculators, American exporters, $5 or $6 billion. If we lose, and without the help of the United States, we must lose. We, England, France, and Italy cannot pay back this money, and Germany won't. So, had secrecy been outlawed as far as war negotiations were concerned, and had the press been invited to be present at that conference, or had radio been available to broadcast the proceedings, America never would have entered the World War. But this conference, like all war discussions, was shrouded in utmost secrecy. When our boys were sent off to war, they were told it was a war to make the world safe for democracy and a war to end all wars. Well, 18 years after, the world has less of democracy than it had then. Besides, what business is it of ours whether Russia or Germany or England or France or Italy or Austria live under democracies or monarchies, whether they are fascists or communists? Our problem is to preserve our own democracy. And very little, if anything, has been accomplished to assure us that the World War was really the war to end all wars. Hello to Tomas in the chat and to Stacy. Yes, we have had disarmament conferences and limitations of arms conferences. They don't mean a thing. One has just failed. The results of another have been nullified. We send our we send our professional soldiers and our sailors and our politicians and our diplomats to these conferences. And what happens? The professional soldiers and sailors don't want to disarm. No admiral wants to be without a ship. No general wants to be without a command. Both mean men without jobs. They are not for disarmament. They cannot be for limitations of arms. And at all these conferences, lurking in the background, but all powerful just the same, are the sinister agents of those who profit by war. They see to it that these conferences do not disarm or seriously limit armaments. The chief aim of any power at any of these conferences has not been to achieve disarmament to prevent war, but rather to get more armament for itself and less for any potential foe. There is only one way to disarm with any semblance of practicability. That is for all nations to get together and scrap every ship, every gun, every rifle, every tank, every warplane. Even this, if it were possible, would not be enough. Pardon me. What? What you say? What? What? Oh my God, why? Why? Why are you yelling at me, you little precocious creature? Hello. Are we having an interlude? Are we having an interlude? Pardon me, y'all. Somebody has something to say. Do you have something to say to me? What you want, baby kitty? What you want? You want some attention? What is it? Look. Hello. I'm so sorry if I've upset you with my carryings on. You don't deserve that. No. Why does she sit and make so much noise? Hi, Yoda. Good to have you here. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You gonna pop up here? You gonna come up? Come on. Get on up here. You've already interrupted my reading. Come on, get up here. You might as well get some attention. Come on. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Hi. Hi, kitty, kitty. Hello, kitty, kitty. Get you on down. There we go. There we go. Oh, my goodness. Hi. You were carrying on. You were screaming your little head off. Why were you screaming your little head off? There's no need to scream that little head off. Okay. Come here. There appears to be something in your eye. No, no, no. Don't you? No, no, no. You know I ain't having you walk around with your eye looking all funky. Yeah. He wants to know I snipped him. You care more about his snipping than he does. Goodness. Yeah, so good here. He knows why he was snipped as well. He had a nasty habit of spraying. So he was spraying this, spraying that, spraying everything he could spray. He sprayed people in the face. He never sprayed me in the face, but yeah, you were spraying. Oh my goodness. Was you spraying? You were spraying it up. Oh no, we couldn't deal with that. We could not deal with that. It was nasty. You were being nasty. And you were even more of a thug than you are now. You were being a thug too. You were violent. Yeah, he had too much. Yeah, he had too much testosterone. I don't know. Look, y'all. What do you want? It's unsightly to have male animals with their nuts anyway. It's disgusting. I gag every time I see like a dog with its nuts. I'm like, ooh. He was protecting me. Yes. I know he thought he was, but I can't be dealing with that, y'all. Look, he knew what he was getting into when he decided to be my cat. Okay. Men have them too. Your dog and cat have nuts. Oh dear. Nasty. They're nasty. Ooh. Just hanging out there, having nuts. Nasty. No. It ain't held him back any. He does not feel held back any. You all are projecting onto Nero some sort of weird feeling that you have that he doesn't even think about. You don't even think about it, do you, sweetie? You don't even miss them. They were causing you more problems than they were giving you. They were causing you more problems. I will not be judged for my care of my cat. It's not only that. I mean, it wouldn't have been good for him to keep having them. I mean, and then you think about the cost of him like getting out and possibly impregnating other cats, and there's already like a crisis of feral cats and just, people having too many kitties that don't got no homes. I'm not insecure. You guys are the ones that are insecure. Nero and I are fine. He's not insecure and I'm not insecure. My insecurities. He would have been a great dad. He would not have. It is for the greater good. Yes, spaying and neutering your pets is for the greater good. It sure is. It sure is. It's responsible pet ownership. Yeah. Unless you are going to take responsibility for the product that they are, producing, if you're going to take responsibility for all those kittens or puppies or whatever that they're out here creating. I mean, I couldn't, He knew the deal. He knew what he was getting into. Didn't you? You knew what kind of woman I was. You still got that little bit in your eye. There we go. Yeah, there we go. You're so good. Good kitty. But I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't really think we should be talking about it, though. What do you mean he never leaves? I let him outside. He would have run off. He would not have run off. We've been through a lot together. We've lived in many different places, especially like when we moved back to Portland. He never lived here. So when I moved back here, we lived in several different places. He got out, went about doing his little thing. And he always came back. And now but yeah, he goes out into the hallway now. He goes out into the hallway and then he'll go on the balcony a little bit, but that's it. But yeah, it does. He didn't go out today though. No going out today. But he settled a bit more today. He wasn't so rambunctious today as he has been. Well, I tell him he's not going outside because he's often asking for that. Yes, he's pretty content. He's got a good deal. Plus he loves me. Yeah. The Freemason job, indeed I am. It's not like I can chase him. I know, I mean, but it also makes him happy, Stacy. It gives him a little bit of excitement. I didn't see your shout outs. Were you giving funny shout outs? I wasn't in Nick's for very long today. I got a phone call. So I had to, and the phone call went for a while. So who'd you shout out? Any good shout outs? Indeed, I eunuched him. I did a video about eunuching him. That was before I even eunuched him, though. That was before he even got his little nuts cut off. Okay, you shouted out Court. I'm sure it was vulgar. Anybody else you shouted out? Oh God, yeah, the Joelle show today. That was interesting. That female doctor was obscene, like, or the female plastic surgeon. Especially when but she said she's like, oh, I've had 7 things done, procedures done, but she was saying that she calls herself natural, even because people can't tell, but like she looked like she'd had plastic surgery. So I don't know what the heck she was talking about. That was, I mean, like even to, I'm no expert. I have become a little bit more aware of how commonplace it is, but like, even just looking, even, if I didn't know much about it, she had a plasticky looking face. Like she had a face that looked like it was pulled back quite a bit and messed with a bit. So I don't know on what planet she thinks she looks like she hasn't had plastic surgery and what she's comparing herself to. And I find with like people who tend to like gravitate towards that or who are in that world, they really have no concept of what looks normal and what doesn't. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you did the drum. Oh no. Yeah, I know that was so disgusting. Like that was also just a crazy example. And like also like what do you mean it's coming out of your swimwear? Like, are you serious? Like really? that was, I'm like, I was like in my mind because it wasn't just that she had said that this girl had like, unsymmetrical genitalia, but also the fact that they described it like popping out of her like swimwear. I was like, I started like, my imagination started running. I'm like, well, what? Really? Really? Yeah, it seemed very exaggerated. I mean, I don't know. In that circumstance, yeah, that sounds like a difficult thing to deal with. Yeah, it's Michael Jackson's birthday. Rest in peace, Michael Jackson. Definitely. I don't know. I feel like I have plastic surgery. I don't know. The rarest thing to justify plastic surgery. I know. And it's like, you don't even need to go there because that is such and that is also is such a personal thing as well. And there's a difference between like a cosmetic surgery and something that might be like actually corrective or something, you know? I know. But yeah, people, once you do start to manipulate your face with these methods, yeah, most of the time people aren't even looking at themselves in the right way. They have some kind of like bizarre fixation with their features that is causing them to not see what they actually look like clearly in the first place, or to even appreciate the natural beauty they've been given. Um, but yeah, so they'll get something done, and the actual mental issues aren't addressed by having a plastic surgery. So they just end up becoming plastic surgery addicts, and it's and then some of it is, there's a lot of pressure to, if you're in, on camera being filmed constantly, and there's a lot of scrutiny, I think specifically for women in the public eye. I mean, I can't believe how commonplace a lot of plastic surgery is. I didn't know until I like watched a few plastic surgeons. There's this guy on YouTube who does really interesting breakdowns of celebrity faces and talks about like the work they've had done. He's like, and he'll go like by year so that you can actually kind of see the differences in appearance that are subtle. Because a lot of people get very like small things done all the time to their appearance. I don't know. To me, it's kind of sad because then we don't see what these, kind of above average or like, even beautiful women like look like aging. We don't get to even see what that looks like. And so there's even more of a contrast, I think, in the public's mind, between that, because we're not seeing like, oh, we don't know what Taylor Swift should actually look like at 35 because she's had her, she's had partial facelifts and she's had like her eyes done and her nose done. Like, we don't know. It's sad. Yeah. And the BBLs are just, Frederick's like, poor BBL girls, but I don't know. Like, I don't feel too bad for them, to be honest. You know what I mean? I don't like, I feel bad for the women who like, I feel bad when people die or get like infections or, have botched surgeries. I suppose I feel bad to a certain degree, but like, what are you even thinking? What are you even thinking, like doing that? And especially like with the weird body things. It's one thing if like the plastic surgeon mentioned a woman who'd had 4 kids and her stomach was just like looking all kinds of crazy. So I can see like maybe wanting to have something done to just kind of restore something there. But like, I don't know. I can't get with it. I know Gwen Stefani really does break my heart. I miss her old nose so much. I commented on a video or like not a video, but a post on Instagram maybe last year. There's this page called Beauty False that I follow where they kind of, expose plastic surgery, and they also expose like editing, filters, that kind of thing. But yeah, there was a post on Gwen Stefani and the like transformation of her face. And she was such an icon, when I was younger. She was like kind of an alternative, or I thought she was this like, kind of different girl that made it into the, celebrity milieu. And then, yeah, she's kind of just the same as anybody else. But anyway, yeah, her nose, I did miss her nose. She had a very interesting nose. It was unique and cute. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the uniformity of it as well is also boring to me. Like so many women pursuing the same exact features and looks when I can't fathom it. Like, why are you trying to look like everybody else? I'm like, that's never even. Is that true, Stacey? Generic is what men like. I don't really care though. Like, God made me the way I am. What do I care? Like, oh, like, is it worth my soul? Is it worth my, is it worth my integrity? Is it worth my pain and suffering to manipulate myself into a false image so that some guy will look at me? Men are going to look at you regardless. I'm sorry. Women are attractive naturally to men. You don't have to do a lot to attract a man. And that's the other thing about it that's just mind blowing to me. Like, lust from a man is not a compliment. Lust is not a compliment. Why are women out here thinking that a man wanting to sleep with you or lusting over your features is a compliment? Or that it's something that you should even care that much about? The prettier you look, the more chances you have to get pregnant by your man. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care. You either like me or you don't. I don't care. Don't care. I'm not about to. Unlike Terry and I with Pee Wee Herman and Jesse Eisenberg. Oh, rest in peace, Paul Rubens. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think men do get. Well, men are valued for different reasons than women, but I mean, and yeah, I don't think I look that weird. I think I look pretty good compared to the average woman. When I'm out in like the real world interacting with people don't make much of an effort, but I show up prepared for the day. I always have a cute outfit on. I always have my hair done, makeup, accessories on point. Everything's matching. I show up to the world like I mean business. However, so I don't know, but maybe I think that too in some ways is kind of like, well, that's nice of you to say. That's a nice compliment from Yoda to say I'm a cute gal. I don't know. I don't think Paul Rubens was weird looking. Was Paul Rubens weird looking? I mean, really? I think he's pretty average looking. I don't know. We kind of got off this topic. He was a weird man. Don't get me wrong. He was very weird. I love a weirdo. I mean, I'm not normal myself. Terri Strange, hello. I kind of like nerds though. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I like. Yeah. Oh, Fran Drescher is gorgeous. Gorgeous woman, Fran Drescher. I love her outfits in the nanny. She was just like, and just her in general. She's stunning. Even today, she's stunning. Like, I don't know if she's had any work done. She looks like she's aged. But yeah, she looks phenomenal. Anyway, Terry knows she has her pick. Don't flatter her more than she needs to be. I don't know. Do I have my pick? I struggle. I don't know. I shouldn't even. It's not that easy for me. It's really not. I think, and you hear a lot of men talk about how they don't want to be with a woman who's beautiful or attractive or pretty or that kind of thing. Like, no, I see women all the time who are like twos and they got a man and he's even doing stuff for them and taking care of them and stuff. And I'm like out here like gaslighting and girl bossing. And I'm like, what the heck? What am I to do? Like, when am I gonna like, I don't know. When is it gonna be right? Anyway, would I sit next to whom at the cinema? Let's not talk about what Paul Rubens got into, what kind of behavior he got into. What do you mean, Frederick? Hake and Joel are conflicted? I am. I'm pretty tough, I suppose. I think that's part of it too. Yeah, I think that's part of it too, maybe. But I don't know. I can only speculate, and then when I talk about these things out loud, sometimes I feel dumb or vain or whatever. Like I'll say something like, "Oh, how I look." And it's not about how you look at all. It really, at the end of the day, I don't know. Yeah, I think there is though I think there is some truth to that, like kind of um the idea that, if you have more options, you have less options in a way. But I don't know. Hoping to find myself a secure king, you know, find a man who's like values the kind of woman I am and values also the way I look and the way I present myself. Yeah, I agree with women maximizing their pretty privilege too. I agree. I mean, regardless of whether you're quote unquote pretty or not, the better you look, the more time you spend on your appearance, the more you invest in yourself, the better you'll be treated, period. Doesn't matter if you're conventionally attractive or not. If you look like you actually spend time on your appearance and that you actually, take care of yourself, you're always going to get better treatment. But anyway, let's continue. Let's get through this chapter, and I think I'll probably call it quits for the night. Okay. All right. If a girl doesn't adore you, don't F with them. It's early Negro. It's 8 o'clock. My bedtime's 9. In that 5-month interval, the people had not been asked whether they had changed their minds. The 4 million young men who put on uniforms and marched or sailed away were not asked whether they wanted to go forth to suffer and die. Then what caused our government to change its mind so suddenly? Money. An Allied commission, it may be recalled, came over shortly before the war declaration and called on the president. Oh, wait, I think I just read this. Yeah. Had secrecy been outlawed as far as war negotiations were concerned, and had the press been invited to be present at that conference, or had radio been available to broadcast the proceedings, America never would have entered the World War. But this conference, like all war discussions, was shrouded in utmost secrecy. When our boys were sent off to war, they were told it was a war to make the world safe for democracy and a war to end all wars. Okay, yeah, I'm still kind of behind. I guess I was on this page. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sorry. Yes, we have had disarmament conferences and limitations of arms conferences. They don't mean a thing. One has just failed. The results of another have been nullified. We send our professional soldiers and our sailors and our politicians and our diplomats to these conferences, and what happens? The professional soldiers and sailors don't want to disarm. No admiral wants to be without a ship. No general wants to be without a command. Both mean men without jobs. They are not for disarmament. They cannot be for limitations of arms. And at all these conferences, lurking in the background, but all powerful just the same, are the sinister agents of those who profit by war. They see to it that these conferences do not disarm or seriously limit armaments. The chief aim of any power at any of these conferences has not been to achieve disarmament to prevent war, but rather to get more armament for itself and less for any potential foe. There is only one way to disarm with any semblance of practicability. That is for all nations to get together. Yeah, I did read this. Oh my God, y'all. Ugh. The next war, according to experts, will be fought not with battleships, not by artillery, not with rifles, and not with machine guns. It will be fought with deadly chemicals and gases. Secretly, each nation is studying and perfecting newer and ghastlier means of annihilating its foes wholesale. Yes, ships will continue to be built, for the shipbuilders must make their profits, and guns still will be manufactured, and powder and rifles will be made. For the munitions makers must make their huge profits, and the soldiers, of course, must wear uniforms, for the manufacturer must make their war profits too. But victory or defeat will be determined by the skill and ingenuity of our scientists. If we put them to work making poison gas and more fiendish mechanical and explosive instruments of destruction, they will have no time for the constructive job of building greater prosperity for all peoples. By putting them to this useful job, we can make more money out of peace than we can out of war, even munitions makers. So I say, to hell with war. Toby, my name is Kunta Kinte. This series of 5 articles by Smedley Butler originally appeared in the magazine Common Sense between October 1935 and March 1936. The second article, in which Butler described himself as a racketeer for capitalism, has been the most often quoted of the series, and the passage is occasionally mistaken as having been excerpted from War is a Racket. So, military boondoggling. We are one short jump away from the Second World War. The United States looks grotesque, waving its drooping olive branch toward Europe. We are really waving a lighted cigar over the international powder keg. That drooping olive branch is the neutrality resolution forced down the throat of a reluctant president and a Wall Street-dominated State Department by Congress. The lighted cigar is our arrogant and irresponsible armed forces. War is a racket. Our stake in that racket has never been greater in all our peacetime history. We possess a unique set of warmongers, dollar patriots, war profiteers, and military chiselers. They bow to no one in their flag waving, tax dodging, regimenting, and reactionary activities. With their connivance, we are breaking all incendiary records this year. We are hitting new highs with dollars spent for men under arms for provocative maneuvers, for engines of destruction, and for military and naval boondoggling. Reading Rainbow's song plays with DMX in it. The headlines tell the story: greatest military concentration of peacetime, biggest naval exercises ever held, secret bombers delivered, National Guard at its peak, Army and Navy allocated millions from Works Fund, promotion speeded by War Department, war stocks rise on market, steel, copper, industrial at new levels. What does this mean? The answer is clear. Even the most limber of the liberals cannot say we are a peaceful nation. Even the most enlightened member of our War and Navy departments will not tell you we have a defensive military policy. We are astride the tiger of war preparations, and we dare not dismount. Our financial musclemen are already figuring prospective war dividends. Our efforts to decommercialize mass slaughter during the past Congress were a palpable failure. Under the cover of the unconscionable, war profiteering testimony produced by a Senate investigation, the White House crudely attempted to run in a plan sponsored by a Wall Street speculator and his henchmen that would draft men but not property and sanctify future hostilities on 6% minimum profit basis. Only the threat of filibuster produced a stopgap neutrality policy. Do the common people want war? To ask that question is to ask who wants to become a gold star mother. None of the common people wants war. War has to be crammed down their throats. War had to be crammed down their throats in 1917. The voters showed their aversion to becoming cannon fodder by voting in larger numbers for the man who kept us out of war in 1916. Enlistments in 1917 were a bust. Had we depended upon volunteers, we could have scarcely sent 75,000 to Europe. Extreme propaganda and atrocity stories brought only 30,000 men to the enlistment booths in 2 months. And the pressure of the draft was a failure in the beginning. Over 250,000 failed to register at all, and over half who did register claimed exemption. Why is it we are again engaged in the biggest of all rackets? How have we become a nation of saber rattlers? Why do we spend so much money in preparation for killing and in training our youths in being killed? To answer these questions, we must first understand the composition and control of our nation's armed forces. We must examine their state of efficiency, influence, and political orientation. We must describe their role in industrial and political crises and their relation to big business, and we must examine them in relation to our traditional national policies. I know the drones are horrible. God, I can't imagine what it's like dealing with those. Or those horrible robot dogs. Or like, oh, Yoda, are you leaving us to go watch Roots? Oh, Roots. It's been a while since I've seen Roots. Oh my goodness. The popular fallacy. What is this military machine that we have? What is this War Department that receives added millions every year that looms so large today and wields such a powerful influence in Congress? Who are its leaders, these men who can secretly plan to fortify the Canadian border, who can defy congressional charges of dishonesty, inefficiency, and incompetence? The average citizen thinks we have a small regular army augmented by state militia and a few scattered reserves. If he believes the releases of the War Department, he thinks our Army is 18th in the world size and consequently no threat to himself or his fellow nations. Even so, careful a publication as Fortune recently embraced this fallacy. As a matter of fact, there are on the rolls of the War Department and maintained in whole or in part from its budget, regular Army 118,000, regular Army increment under new law 46,500, National Guard 190,000, organized reserves 120,000, Reserve Officers Training Corps 150,000, Citizens Military Training Camps 40,000, National Board for the Promotion of Rifle Practice 137,000, civilian employees 77,000, for a total of 879,000. If we add to this formidable figure the 600,000 boys in the CCC Forest Army, all of whom Harry Woodring, Assistant Secretary of War, wants to make economic stormtroopers, we have an agglomeration that changes our rating from 18th up among the leaders. This military setup for the fiscal year of 1936 is costing us exactly $1 million per day, not counting whatever gravy the War Department may receive from works, funds, or other sources. The total will run well over $500 million and probably approach $750 million. Oh. Here, I'm going to move my thing a bit. Oh, no. We'll move it up slightly. There we go. Oh, dear. I know, 1 million back in the day. Yeah, I'm starting to get my yawns in. Goodness. Okay. For the present, let us turn our attention to the regulars who receive the lion's share of the money. By the time this article appears, they will have 156,000 men on their rosters. They are scattered all over this country on 200 army posts and stations, and over 55,000 of them will be garrisoning our insular possessions: Puerto Rico, Hawaii, the Philippines, the Panama Canal, Alaska. Despite all the fanfare and recent maneuvers, the regulars could not put a single field army together in less than 6 months, and weeks would elapse before they could organize in the event of an emergency. 3 modern tanks is all our entire army could muster. Without calling upon the National Guard, they could hardly fill a fair-sized football stadium. The average number of regulars on an army post today is about 700, and nowhere does it exceed 2,500 except at a few stations where schools are maintained. Y'all are sick. You're sick, Yoda, you're sick. The apparent paradox of huge expenditures and infinitesimal concentrations of ready soldiers is easily explained when we discover what the regulars do to keep busy. A roster of the activities of our War Department soon dispels the belief that its primary duty is to maintain a small, efficient military machine for the defense of our country. That may be paramount in the thoughts of our younger and more realistic military men. But the rankers in Washington rarely allow any such doctrines to interfere with their higher callings. War Department diversity. The diversity of the War Department's activities is such that it permits the gold-braid boys to adhere to a plan of action which is 9/10 self-inflation and 1/10 military effectiveness. Self-inflation means self-preservation, more males than females on the War Department rosters, larger appropriations, more powerful lobbying, more projects to direct, more opportunities to wield influence among civilians, and above all, more publicity. Military effectiveness means real soldiering, which is something quite different. Consequently, the War Department, that is, 67 generals and departmental bureaucrats, have things far more important than soldiering upon their minds. Rivers and harbors have to be dredged, staff cars must be chauffeured, the revenues of Santo Domingo collected, Alaskan cables operated, football teams coached, the Statue of Liberty illuminated, college co-eds and movie queens appointed honorary colonels of the ROTC, the horses for the Army Horse Show and polo teams kept fit, newspapers, laundries, and dry cleaning establishments must be run by commissioned officers. The really big industrialists must be appointed reserve officers, and the military intelligence units must do their share of red hunting. The list goes on almost indefinitely. Health camps in the Philippines, railroads and hotels in Panama, and a fleet of ocean liners must be operated, and the rent of a street of brothels in Cologne must be collected. During odd moments, some actual soldiering is done, but not for long. There is always the airmail to be flown, the stratosphere to be conquered, or 900 trucks to be purchased for the CCC. It has almost been bad form to talk about real soldiering around the War Department. Until the maneuvers at Pine Cap last month, not a single officer in the entire Army had seen a unit larger than a full-strength battalion assembled since the war. Pine Camp was not much better. When the whole 1st Division of the regulars took the road on August 20th, it contained 4,243 men and 242 officers, scarcely larger than a wartime regiment and about 1/5 the size of a full-strength division. The 3 modern tanks the Army possesses were in full force, however, and the commanding general had a nice shiny station wagon of his very own. All right, y'all, I think I'm going to stop there. I'm getting a bit too many yawns coming on for me to continue reading tonight. But we'll probably continue and finish it this weekend. What do you all think so far? Yoda's being degenerate, talking about disgusting acts of depravity in my chat. As usual. The beat goes on. The beat goes on. Yeah, it's a bit depressing, isn't it? And just reading all these figures can be kind of exhausting too, but to think of it being written in the 30s, and then also he kind of giving the figures for the First World War. I didn't notice Fred being degenerate, other than he said that he would, gladly accept your free publicity. That he didn't admit to anything depraved. Oh, Yoda, what are we to do with you? Dirty little troll. Dirty. And yeah, Fred, when are you going to go live again? You haven't been live in a while. You've been doing your drone videos, which is nice, but we do miss your little hangouts. I don't. It rhymes. It does rhyme. It does. I'll give you that. It rhymes. And I'm sure people will enjoy you making fun of Fred. I don't know that I enjoy it so much. I think it's kind of horrific. I mean, you're the first person I even heard that term from. I remember like reading it and I was like, what does that mean? I don't know why I couldn't put it together in my mind. Like I should have probably been able to, like, but yeah, it was just like, what the heck is that? Like, what is he talking about? So I'm sure, you'll get to corrupt some more people's minds. I can't believe people do that. Like, I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. Really? I'm not even sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, I ain't sorry. Yeah, it's hard to be an innovator. It really is. Yeah. I'm a bit of a trendsetter myself too. I understand the pain of that. But yeah. But I don't know, that's ugh. Why would you do that? There's so many things that people do that I just can't mentally understand. You're gonna block Yoda if he shows up with that name. Okay. Yeah, it's not. I'm sure people of all races are. I know people of all races are doing it. I'm sure because I've heard other people talk about it. But yeah, it's not. Why can't I don't know. Why can't people just be normal? Like, why have we gotten to such a state as a society that like people are this worked up about, like they're this worked up and this like depraved that like normal relations is not enough. It's not exciting enough for something. It's not like I'm like, how do you get even yourself into that state, like where because it's supposed to be exciting in and of itself. I don't understand why it's boring to people, but I think maybe people are just like I think it's probably a combination of things, honestly. Yeah, I think people are very disconnected. Maybe it's the proliferation of pornography, um, the wide acceptance of like even like gay sexuality. I mean, I remember when I was younger, like hanging out with um, gay men, and not all of them were this way. Obviously, a lot of them aren't. But I remember the first time I went to like a party at a mutual friend's house, and they were gay, and I brought some mutual friends, and there was some depraved stuff going on, and I was like kind of shocked. I never really had experienced that before. I was in my early 20s at the time, and they had toys out everywhere, and like I didn't see anybody doing anything, but it's just the fact that they had these things out, and they were like doing poppers and talking about like all kinds of things. It was just like crazy to me. Oh God, you know what the other thing was? I totally spaced this, but the reason the party was being thrown, I didn't even know this when I got invited, and I wouldn't have attended if I had known this. But like they were throwing this party because um, they had successfully passed HIV onto like they were a young like gay male couple, and one person was HIV positive and the other one wasn't. The other young man wasn't, and he, I guess, had successfully contracted HIV from sleeping with his boyfriend, and so they threw a party. Like, to my mind now, like, and then I was like shocked. I was shocked. Like, blew my mind. And I'm like, I knew the one young man had HIV, and I was sympathetic to that, obviously. But I didn't know like that. I mean, if I had something like that, you know, God forbid, I can't. I mean, why would you want to get? You know, it's such a horrible like. It's such a horrible disease. It really is, and like they make drugs for it now that can really that make it manageable, but it's still not something you want to have or live with. And it's you still deteriorate on it, and like being on those drugs isn't great for you either. And it's just like it seems to me like in the modern era too, with like the invention of PrEP and everything, like it's become even more commonplace for them not to even like utilize condoms or anything like that. It is violent. It's sick. It's sick. It's really upsetting. I know they vote as well, Tomas. They vote. They vote Democrat. C-Sal is shocked. I know. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I was like, are you serious? And like the guy who was like they were telling me about it, they were like, you know, cuddling up with one another. And then like the guy who just contracted HIV was like telling me about it. And he was all excited at first. And then he kind of started talking about it. He started like looking down. He stopped making eye contact. Just from what I'm remembering of the interaction. Meanwhile, they had like all these toys that they had like, and I never seen anything like this, suction cupped around the house, like these. I'm not going to use the term for what these toys are, but they had suction cups at the bottom, and they just like would like put them on the wall, you know, like, and have these things hanging off the wall. It was crazy. And it was a mixed party of like men and women that were at this party. But yeah, I never attended another party at their house. And I definitely, you know, kind of distanced myself after that. I was like, yeah, Tomas, you're probably right about that. I mean, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. A lot of people are, and they don't handle it well. They don't deal with it in the right way. We don't need to know. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm just remembering. And then I think they got caught up in like the radical fairies and like polyamory. So imagine this. You're like, it's one thing for you if you're in like a closed monogamous relationship to you and your partner have an STD, let's just say. It's one thing to like imagine that, but then imagine you're in an open relationship. Oh God, like it's so sad and sick. And it's like the lack of, it's not only just they don't care about themselves, you know? They don't care about themselves. Oh my God, Frederick, that's horrible. I know, yeah, that's the other thing about it too. Like, because he was this guy was a coworker that I had, and he also like took me. So before that, I had went to his other workplace. So he had told me he'd started like dancing at a gay club, and I didn't realize he was stripping, and he wasn't working the night that we went. But yeah, we went to this club, and it was like what I saw was gross. It was like guys up there, and they were like in their underwear, and they were like flashing. And I was just like stunned. I'm like, you're doing this? You're doing that? Like you're doing this. Terri would fit in the Godfather movies. My skin looks flawless. Thank you. I'm wearing a bit of makeup, but I do have pretty. I'm lucky with my skin. I don't have a lot of problems. Yeah, you can see it a bit better. But yeah. Yeah, I know. Then there's the whole bandana thing. It's sick. It's really, yeah, I should probably change the subject. I don't know how I got onto this, guys. I don't know, but like it's a really dark world. It's a really dark world. Um I don't know what else to say, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I've met more respectable acting gay men who like don't get into all that and who seem to be like a bit more responsible, but it's so commonplace, and I hadn't realized how commonplace all of that stuff was. I mean, and what is responsible anyway? Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's not responsible. It's not responsible. It's like not what we're supposed to be doing. Not all, not all, not all, but most. Exactly, Calvin. I mean, I don't, yeah. With no woman to say no, they are fully who they are. I don't think that's who they are, though, Stacy. I think they're demonically possessed. I think they're, a lot of them were abused or traumatized in childhood, and or they were traumatized by their mothers or some other instance, or maybe, you know, they were born, you know, in some sort of way. I don't know how it works really, but like, yeah, I don't think that's who people were born to be. You know, I don't think that's who people were born to be. I think there's a spirit driving them. And I know for me, like when I was, you know, identifying as a lesbian and like living, I was demonically possessed. There was no, that wasn't me. That wasn't who I was. That had nothing to do with, you know, any kind of, that wasn't what I was made for, or like anything to do with like what I'm about, really. Yes, God is with us. I know, yeah, Stacy does have some pretty brutal things to say, but I appreciate Stacy's feedback. I think she says some interesting things. So I don't always agree with her, but I do think that like that's helpful to think about, like, because I've heard that from a lot of feminists or like radical feminists or lesbians even say that about gay men. They're like, this is just who men are, you know, because they don't have women, you know, putting some kind of like boundary on their sexual behavior, which I do think that women do bring a level of civilization to men to a certain degree, yes. But again, I don't think that's what these men were made for, you know, and I think they're enslaved to their flesh, you know. They're enslaved to their flesh, and they're enslaved to their anger, a lot of it, you know. And again, like a lot of it can be resentment and trauma as well. Like so many people I've met in that world have childhood sexual trauma, like just to be real. So, and it's not, there's plenty of people outside of that world that have it too. But I mean, I think people respond to that in different ways. And a lot of the time it can create a kind of promiscuity in a lot of people. not all, but some people become promiscuous just because they were implanted with that very young. And I think maybe because their first experiences were so awful and traumatic and like shameful or maybe even painful, the fact that they enjoy it is like something that like they're in their mind reclaiming something. The psychology of it is crazy. And then there's also the spiritual aspect of it, you know? So you like how I am right, honest about what, Galahad? No, I mean what Stacey said was pretty man-hating. like, I'm gonna defend Fred there. She said something kind of like, and I don't think men are that way necessarily. Men, and too, like we have to like, are people like, I mean, I don't know. What am I trying to say? Are people, these acts that they do, I feel like humanity can rise above their baseness. You're right about that, Tomas. Everything does propagate outward from the spiritual, and everything has its spiritual underpinning. Yeah, I don't think Fred came for you. He just said, I mean, did Galahad block Cecil? That's wild. Now you know what it's like. Now you know what it's like, Cecil. Oh, okay. Yeah, Galahad, about how I've changed. I've changed in numerous ways. I've changed in numerous ways. I mean, every saint has a story, right? And yeah, having a testimony is, everybody's got a testimony. I was listening to and I was an occultist as well. So like I was involved in a lot of very dark things when I think about it now. And I'm just so like amazed and grateful. And I get emotional sometimes when I think about it too, because I'll just be like thinking about the transformation that's taken place in my life. But I also think about like God's faithfulness to me in those times, because I was saved as a young child. And I think there's something about that. Like God never leaves you, even when you are being depraved or evil, He's there. And I just see like how faithful God is to our faithlessness, and it makes me emotional sometimes, honestly. Excuse me. Is it beautiful? Thank you, Mary May. I don't know. It is. It is beautiful. It really is. Like, I don't like to get too emotional though, because I know that that's evil as well. Like, I watch myself and I'm like, okay, I don't need to get all sobby about like how good God has been to me. But like, it is kind of incredible that I could be so deceived and behave so wickedly. And when I was having dinner with a friend last night, and she had like contacted me about, oh, can you recommend a reader to me, like a tarot reader? And as we were sitting at the dinner, I was like telling her, confessing to her, like right there, I was like, I was like, you invite the devil in when you engage in these behaviors, and I really deeply regret having done that work for people, at this, I really regret it. I led people astray. And it's not like, it's not as if like, people were comforted by my readings, and whatever. And like when I stopped giving readings, a lot of my clients were upset about it, but I knew I had to stop. And like now, with kind of time passing and just being out of it for enough time to have more clarity, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, you had a reading that effed you up for years. Yeah, I can remember readings that I gave people that I should not have been giving people. I had no business giving people readings. And then it invited all kinds of demonic activity into my life, What about, like, I think about all the times I struggled with like sleeplessness. I had insomnia for years. Insomnia, like, and then like what kind of, what did other people deal with, Because just because you aren't having like a spiritual attack that you can be aware of, I don't know. I kind of like, it was interesting having that conversation with her because I was like, look, don't seek this stuff out. Because like the devil is going to find a way, even if you're getting the true, good information or like you think it's helping you, there's some way in which it's going to be bad. There's always a cost. There's always a cost. And you don't know what that cost is, So, I mean, there's so much. But I don't know. I'm still kind of putting it together in my mind. Like, even though it's been years now and I've been overcoming, working on this, kind of coming to reality and truth, about what I'd dealt with, what I was engaged in, the evilness of it, the demonicness of it. Yeah, I don't even know with my testimony where to begin with people. Like, where do you begin with your testimony? I don't know. Like, and how do you, I mean, you all know my story to whatever degree you do. And then people who know me in real life know, or people who've known me over the years know. But I meet new people and I meet new Christians, and it's always like, oh man. Or I mean, or I'm going to like proselytize, or not proselytize, but, I'm going to give testimony to an unbeliever maybe. And I'm like, well, where do I begin? And like, am I just putting my business out there as well? With the YouTube channel, I can't really hide anything because it's been out here, what I was involved in, my occultism, my, like, I don't know. Yeah, Harvard education isn't what it used to be. It's really, Harvard is churning out some really dumbass people who are like boasting. I'm thinking of this one like woman, God, what is her name? She's this social media fat influencer, and she's a Harvard grad, and she's making all this like content for like the fat acceptance, fat liberation movement. And she got that Harvard, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look good for Harvard. Yeah, fat, the fat liber. Well, let me try and look her up. Let me see if I can find her. See if I can find her name and maybe show her to you guys. There's so many of these people, but maybe if I'll find her just to show her to you guys. This woman is insane. Very insane. What's her name? Samira. Okay. Well, this fat has spread to the brain. Honestly, like it makes people morbidly obese. Being morbidly obese will affect your mental health because most of them have hypothyroidism and hormonal imbalances, and also the inflammation that people are experiencing when they have that much fat on their body does lead to inflammation of the gray matter. And the earlier you're fat, like if you're fat as a child, it stunts your brain development. Proceeds to rationalize. What do you mean, Tomas? What do you mean, Tomas? Why is my little fox picking on me? My little fox. Oh. Okay, let's see. Oh, good God. She's on TikTok. Can I visit TikTok through here? Let's see. Oh, she's live right now, you guys. Okay. Yeah, I don't really particularly want to go through her TikTok. So she's on YouTube. Let me pull up her YouTube. Okay. Oh man, she doesn't have any of her political stuff up on here. It's just her music. Ugh. Please omit this. Yeah, it does. It does. Why do you want me to admit this? You don't want me to show you the crazy fat girl from Harvard? Do you all want to see her? Be careful not to be banned. Oh, yes. You can't do Jubilee. And you know what, guys? For those of you who were here in my last live stream, I had to delete it because I got a copyright strike and they were seriously coming for me. And that was no, she's black. She's not white. But watching that video of the peanut butter cake that we watched together, that delicious looking peanut butter pound cake, they totally came for my channel for that. Too, unless the woman's 6 foot tall or above, you don't want to be that big. But she's well over that. Okay. I might have to find somebody who's responding to her. Oh, looks like Candace Owens covered her at one point. That's interesting. I know. Why don't I just pull up what I'm scrolling through to kind of show you guys? Maybe we could watch a response video together. Yeah, they came for it. Yeah, she's very, very fat. Okay. Well, anyway. Okay, so yeah, I searched her. And yeah, mostly what's coming up here is like just response videos. Her own channel, it's just her music videos, but they don't seem to have any that are, I don't know. Yeah, I'm wondering. I have watched the Alan Roberts once, so I'm familiar with her from him. But yeah, she's oh, look, there's me. Yeah, we're not getting much here. So why don't we, let's see. I don't know. What one shall I click on? I'm so... Oh, this one was interesting. She came, yeah, this one was interesting. So Sam at Every Size made a video about her.
How's everybody doing? We are live. Thank you very much for joining me. My name, for those of you that don't know, is Alan Roberts, sometimes called the Angry Bald Man, sometimes called Every Damn Day Fitness, oftentimes called That Asshole. So today, I just wanted to go over something really quick. This caught my attention yesterday, and I just wanted to discuss, okay? There is a young lady on TikTok who goes by Samaya Cambriel, is that her actual name? She's made multiple videos about me. She's one of the fat acceptance people that tried to get me in trouble with NASM, which is just shows fucking idiocy on her part.
Yeah, he was reported, this guy, to some agency, even though they don't have any power over him at all. And we'll move forward through to see her video.
This last week, I stumbled across a very loud up-and-coming fat actor.
So now notice her face, because here's what she's going to do. She just, quote unquote, put loud in quotes, right?
Activist who is using her platform on TikTok to call out fashion brands that she has.
Look, the smug look is funny because you don't realize how fucking stupid you are, woman. That's what I find funny about it. You just don't realize how fucking, you are actually one of those people that thinks they're smart when you're really fucking stupid,
Deemed as performative in their size inclusivity. Her name is Samira, and she has a lot to say. Now,
so she puts, quote unquote, a lot to say in quotes.
I have to admit, I do actually like the concept of her micro series because I do think it's a nice reminder to people that these fashion brands do make clothes like they're on Whose Line Is It Anyway. The sizes are made up and the fit doesn't matter. And in many of these videos, we see Samira coming back from these stores that she's deemed fat phobic with clothes that are size medium or large.
Right, she still finds clothes. It's amazing,
which would be below the size that she's shouting that she wants them to make, and they fit her.
she shouting,
Yeah,
had to do that.
true.
Had to make it seem that way too, shouting.
For the same way that she regularly wears clothes on her channel. And after watching all of these TikToks on Samira's channel, I am struggling to understand why she is so angry, right?
Okay, so the reason why she's doing this is because she's trying to say that Sam at Every Size is basically racist. I know that sounds fucking crazy, but that's what she was going at. She's trying to say that these words, loud, a lot to say, shouting, and angry, are microaggressions for racists about Black women, right? So here's my thought process. To the, couple hundred of her fans that are too stupid to understand this. If you are a Black woman and you feel that it is stereotypical to call a Black woman loud, having a lot to say, shouting, or angry all the time, if you feel that that is a negative stereotype, you should be pissed at Samira for fucking acting that way. You should be pissed at her because she is the living embodiment of those stereotypes often. You can just look at her content on her channel. The content on her channel is loud, her shouting. She always has a lot to say, and she seems angry by a lot of shit.
Oh my God, Court.
Saying true shit is not racist by any fucking stretch of the imagination. And angry, motherfuckers, is not a stereotypical word for Black women. I literally am called angry all the fucking time, and I'm definitely not a Black woman. So you weak ass pieces of shit should have actually, gone into why you didn't like what Sam said instead of trying to do the weak ass fucking things. Weak ass fucking things by just painting this as racist. When in fact, if you are upset that those are stereotypes, you should be pissed at this woman for fucking perpetuating a goddamn stereotype. And if you don't believe me about that, we can look at just a few of her fucking videos. So I think she sounds pretty fucking interesting in this one.
Like you could fit it, bitch, you better go and get it. If it look like you could fit it, bitch, you better get up in it. If it look like you could fit it, bitch, you better go and spin it. And it look like you could fit it, so you better go and get it. If it
Sorry, that's loud. I'm so sorry that that's so loud. Just crazy how that's loud, She has. This sounds like she might have a lot to say, and she might be a little angry at these people.
Harvard graduate.
Couture, come to the floor. We gotta talk. We gotta discuss because there's no.
So she has a lot to say, and she seems kind of angry right now. And she's shouting. You can hear it echoing in her apartment.
No way. There is no.
She graduated from Harvard, y'all. Not she went. She
that y'all can
graduated.
have this. Only in straight sizes. Y'all let the straight sizes walk around with their zodiac signs on their booty. And
she seems angry. She seems so mad. It's not really on your booty. That's actually like your lower back. Your booty just got so fucking fat. That's your lower back. But
because this is the only thing y'all have plus size up in JCPenney. I gotta walk around with bride on my booty
and we know that's not true. You're definitely not a bride.
On my back. I'm single.
No shit.
And no, that's not an issue. Stay focused. Stay focused. And what's gonna get me? Furthermore, Juicy Couture, you just ran a campaign with a plus size creator, and I gotta walk around with bride on my booty.
She seems angry. When you say she seems slightly angry, kind of crazy. I don't know.
Said people keep trying to humble me. Let me tell y'all what happened.
See, the thing is, you're humbled. You just don't realize it. You know how you know she's humbled? Because she talks loud shit on TikTok and blocks everywhere else, right? Like she has me blocked on Instagram. She has me blocked on Twitter. She doesn't even make YouTube stuff. Like she is an algorithm famous person. She's famous on TikTok. She's famous on that algorithm. That is fucking it. You are humbled. You know your fucking place.
I'm gonna look for her on Instagram. I might be
understand that.
Her own content.
And that's not because of anything else except your fucking intellect is low, and you know it.
And if I speak, so listen very closely. Y'all know how I've gone to a couple premieres, right? I went to Barbie. I went to The Color Purple.
She's got a lot to fucking say. God damn, she's got a lot to say.
I went to Candy Cane Lane. I went to Little Mermaid, right? Right? So,
damn, she's got a lot to say.
Y'all know it's very hard to find dresses, outfits for
Oh, here comes the anger. She's angry about not being able to find a dress again. Oh no.
Events, right?
She's angry with a lot to say.
So for one of these events,
I wonder if she's going to get loud and start shouting.
Went to a place, was telling them what the event was, tried some things on, right? Now, what I was given to try on, I didn't want to try it on because it was terrible. It looked like a moo-moo. And if you
imagine having front ass that big and thinking that you're fucking should be out here fucking talking all with like authority and shit like that. Like you've clearly fucked your life up so much. You have two asses, one on the front and one on the back, and you're going to fucking act like people can't criticize you for shit. Shut the fuck up.
I know.
You don't know what a moo-moo is? Like a moo-moo. Like the big long.
Damn, she's got a lot to say.
Grandma will wet to sleep. Like a moo-moo. And like I'm about to walk the carpet. I'm not wearing that. Very respectfully. I'm not wearing that on the carpet. If that's your style, cool. It ain't finna be mine.
She's pretty loud. Crazy that she's this loud and got so much to say. Just loud all the time.
I don't like how this video.
See, and look what she's doing to this guy too. Right? I don't know what it's becoming a trend to attempt to humble me. You get humbled every single time with this shit. Like, I know that you think you're going to send your fans over to do something, but the last time they came after me, they lasted for a fucking minute. Because once they realized I didn't give a fuck about the shit they would say, why are you talking about a black woman? I'll talk about whoever the fuck I want. And I'll say whatever the fuck I want. What now? What the fuck are you going to do? What the fuck are you going to do about it?
That's right, Alan. Well, anyway, yeah, I thought enough of listening to Alan. I definitely enjoy his. Oh, heck. I pushed the wrong button, y'all. Give me a second. She has some dudes pull up. I don't know. Like, and Ian, that's the other thing. So I didn't realize she was on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. So it's, let's see. Here's one of her videos.
So, what do you want me to wear in the gym? Let's try Nike. Hi, how are you? Somebody was like rude to me and told me to get my big ass in the gym. But I would just want like I just wanted like a cute, no, literally first of all, but I just wanted like a cute little set to basically just say F them.
Okay. What size do you want to get into?
Typically for Nike, I wear like a 3X top and bottom.
Okay. The goals at the moment, I only have up to 1X, but I can double check for you.
Okay.
For that one.
Okay. I want blue. Why I gotta have black? What if I wanted the USA bra? Do they
I know,
have the
right?
USA bra my size? What if I wanted to be an Olympian? This pink is cute.
I
Hi.
am Jazz.
Anything else at the moment?
Okay.
But again, whatever you see on the floor, I can possibly check online for you to order for you.
So again, I'm gonna ask, what do you want me to wear in the gym? How can you want me to go to the gym, but at the same time not want me to have clothes to wear? Sounds a little freaky if you ask me. Get your big ass in the gym. Well, what do you want me to wear in the gym? Let's try Nike. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, her big.
They said big bag bitch get to the bag. They said big bag bitch you want a snack. Well this big bag bitch she got the stack. So put big bag bitch clothes on the rack. Ooh, on the macaroni. Move and shake it for me. Ooh, we shaking and quaking. The brands are phony. Ooh, the brands are phony. Ooh, they need a Tony. They need an Emmy, Oscar, Grammy, cause the shit baloney. The way they be faking like they're making all the sizes. If you ain't got at least a 4X, you ain't trying. Ooh, so give it to us, baby. Give us.
If you don't have a 4X, you're not trying. A 4X? A 4X. Yeah, she was apparently a football player in high school, apparently. Because she's big as hell. I mean, I don't know. Hi, sweetie. Isn't he cute? He's being so cute right now. Yeah, but even if you're, yeah. Oh, goodness. Yeah, what a mess. So, yeah, she does these songs. There she is. There she is in playing football. People wonder how I'm so fearless when it comes to calling for size inclusivity. The truth is, 16-year-old me knew that I could do anything I set my mind to. I wasn't afraid to break barriers. 10 years later, that determination hasn't wavered. I'm on a mission to not only shatter those barriers, but to empower others to believe in their own power to create change. Fearless isn't something I became. It's who I've always been, who I'll always be. Girl.
Miss Samira Miller, who, as you can see, is number 58 defensive lineman for the Lusher Lions.
Yeah.
Now, you say you've been catching up. I hear you.
Oh, see.
Oh, damn. Look at that photo. She looks even bigger in that outfit. Look at that. Yeah, she's got to be pushing 400 bills. Why are you moving the light? Why are you moving that? You messing with the light on me. You trying to mess up my lighting? Is that right? You think that's nice to do when Mama's judging this fat whale? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing? Mwah. Oh, let's see. The difference between an XXL and a 2X. I'm interested in that.
Happy Mardi Gras. Happy Fat Tuesday. Happy Big Back Tuesday. When I talk about the stain on my shirt, it is simply polishing up on the beignets. Yes, happy Mardi Gras. Anyways, we went to Target to show y'all the difference between an XXL and a 2X. So I got these three items all in. Wait, sorry, that was two. These three items, polka dots, stripes, and colors. Because that's what they give the plus size people. In two different sizes. Let's start with the polka dots. So this is the XXL, and it's sitting right here, like under my bust. I keep trying to pull it down for this to be in my waist, but it just don't want to stay there. So this one is the 2X, y'all. Please look at this. This one sits at the waist. This is a plus size. The other one is a straight size. Let's go to outfit number 2. So this one is the XXL. Oh, ooh. Real.
What's the part she can fit into a 2X?
Okay. The 2X has to be better. It has to be better. And this is the 2X. Come on. It's not that tight arms no more. And we close this some more. Now it's time for the dress. This is the XXL. It's a little tight. It's a little tight already.
I'm surprised she can even get these on. Like, you're going to get these poor dresses.
You just gonna help me with this one? Hey, wait. Because I already cried. Wait. So this is the XXL.
That's right, you gotta be breathing right there.
No, wait, too hard. Wait. Let's put on the 2X. And this is the 2X. Now I'm mad because this one went on so much easier. It's kind of easy. Baba. Happy Mardi Gras.
Ain't nobody shaking the door.
You wanna be? You better shake that.
So yeah, she has a degree from Harvard. That's all I was gonna say. I think I've seen enough. How about y'all? I rest my case. That was crazy. That was so crazy. Yeah, I haven't thought about her in a while, but yeah. I don't know what her degree is in. I know. Does it matter? It doesn't really matter what it's in. It shouldn't, like, the American aristocracy is dead. I don't think it is, Tomas. I don't think she ever was a part of it, nor does attending Harvard make you an American aristocrat. And Lizzo inspired a bunch of people. I suppose she did. You know, she really did break down doors with her fatness. Yeah, Cecil lost all respect for Harvard. Yeah, it's quite disturbing, DEI handing over this country. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't know. The information is probably out there. But yeah, she's a mess. I hope she comes to her senses and loses weight before it's too late. I mean, she's already going to have a lot of problems, even if she does lose weight. And she's only 26. Like, that wall, though, is coming fast and hard, though. Like, and women's, they don't really even offer women's studies anymore. It's all gender studies. You don't learn about women. You learn about, like, how women don't exist now. It's so interesting to me as well that, like, women created the women's studies departments, a few decades ago to kind of like study women's history, discuss women's condition. And that was problematic in and of itself. However, I mean, some of it is relevant and might be something to know. I definitely have appreciated learning, women's history that I wouldn't otherwise know. I didn't study women's history, though. Anything I know is from my own studies, my own personal studies. However, that's all been replaced to the gender kind of studies crowd, and you can't even really get a women's studies at this point because TERFs. Oh, I was a TERF. I was in that world for a while. It was never about women. How can women be so blind to the serpent? We are, Tomas. That's why we need you. We need the men to guide us. Otherwise, the serpent, will get us. Oh, you called me T-Dove. That's sweet. Aging yourself, yeah. 2 genders. What's the study? I don't really know. Yeah, that's the other thing about gender studies. It's I guess you could study masculinity and femininity, but they have a problem with masculinity and femininity. I don't know. It's all very pointless, and it's not anything to really study. It's not a serious academic pursuit, in my humble opinion. We'll just say that, if you're going to go to school, it's not something to take or, take seriously in any regard, Although with a lot of these colleges and universities, people have to take some level of this kind of indoctrination. I'm glad you reminded him of his. Freddie is nothing like that horrible woman. What do you mean? If women gain weight in our culture, we gave them another baby to chase through the sand. Oh my goodness. Women study. It is appalling. Is Duolingo woke now? I haven't been on in a while. Elizabeth Taylor was Cleopatra. Oh, goodness. Well, Cleopatra was clearly European. That's not, but not all of the rulers of Egypt were. Then she ate it. She ate the baby. God. Yeah, Samira's, and they all have that kind of crazy look as well. And again, it's another demonic possession thing. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that Duolingo had gone woke. I remember being in a cafe recently listening to women talk, and one of them apparently was a professor at the local university who taught French. And she was complaining to the other woman about how the insane woke students were demanding that she create curriculum for them to communicate in French without using gendered language, which isn't possible in French and in most languages. And she was like, that's not really something that exists. And you should probably learn a language before you attempt to deconstruct it. And yeah, she was having complaints made about her. And No, oh yeah, I have noticed that on, you know what? I have seen that on Duolingo. Yeah, there is a lot of LGBT like characters, and yeah, you're right. Yeah, interesting. Well, anyway, interesting stream tonight, y'all. I'm up past my bedtime though. I need to get my little self, you know, done down for bed. But yeah, War is a Racket is interesting. I think we've read through War is a Racket. And now these additional, it seems like there's additional essays and articles. So we'll read through it. We'll do a part 2. But yeah, we did have some other interesting conversation tonight. I do need that beauty sleep. Yeah. America is not a high trust society. I mean, it used to be, and it is in pockets, I guess. I kind of grew up in a high trust environment. I don't know. Maybe not completely. But yeah, it's not high trust. I think, that's something that just kind of happens when you have more of a solid national identity, and it's something that dissipates, when you have so many disparate peoples coming together. That isn't true, Stacy. I mean, Korea is very high trust, for example. You can watch videos. I love watching the videos of, they have like these ramen shops you can wander into, and there's nobody like working there, and they just expect you to pay and, take everything you need. White and Asian. Yeah, don't leave the Asians out. Shout out to the Asians. I'm sure there are other communities that are high trust as well, but I don't know. I think it's just something that comes about when you have a lot of like cultural hegemony. And yeah, I've heard that about the Saudis as well. I mean, every culture has its problems though, but yeah. There's a lot of societies where people just expect you to act right and don't expect you not to commit crimes against them just because you can. But anyway, I hope you all have a good night. I'll see you around, and we'll be back probably this weekend to do more reading. So probably Saturday, I think Saturday or Sunday. So anyway, take care until then. Thanks for being here. Good night.